Chemical equilibrium. Quick revision, part 1. First of all, basics from stoichiometry chapter. We know that molarity is equal to number of moles of solution, number of moles of solute divided by volume of solution in liters. We use this formula to express the concentration of solutions. But this concentration term can be used for solutions. We can use it for solutions very clearly. We can use this definition even for gases also. But we cannot use this definition, this concentration term, for solids and for liquids. Why? Because solids and liquids does not change their volume. Therefore, they are not dependent upon volume. Therefore, there is no need to express the concentration like this. But coming to solutions, they can change their concentration, they can change their volume by the addition of solvent. Coming to gases, they can change their volume when the size of the container is changed. Therefore, solutions and gases are dependent upon volume, but coming to solids and liquids, they are not changing their volume. Therefore, there is no need to express the concentration of solids and liquids. Therefore, in this chapter, whenever we come across the concentration of solid or concentration of liquid, we will put the values as 1. That implies we are not considering those concentrations. Therefore, concentration of solids are regarded as 1. Concentration of liquids is also regarded as 1. So this is about concentration. Now, basics from chemical kinetics chapter. For studying chemical equilibrium, we have to learn some basics from chemical kinetics chapter. Number 1, rate of reaction. Rate of reaction is defined as decrease in concentration of reactants by time. This can be written as minus dr by dt, where square bracket r stands for decrease in the concentration of reactants. Because here there is a decrease in concentration of reactants, here we are putting minus. Again, the same rate of reaction can be expressed in terms of products also. It is defined like this: increase in concentration of products divided by time. Because during a reaction, the reactants will be decreasing and products will be increasing. Reactants will be decreasing and products will be increasing. Therefore, here increase in concentration of products by time, that is equal to plus dp by dt, square bracket products by dt. So here we are writing the definition of rate of reaction. By looking at the definition, we can write the units of rate of reaction. Here we are having concentration and in denominator we are having time. We know that the unit of concentration is moles per liter and the unit of time is second. Therefore, mole liter inverse second inverse is the unit of rate of reaction. If we are taking gases, the unit becomes atmosphere second inverse. So this is rate of reaction. Now let us draw the graphs for concentration of reactant versus time. We know that as time proceeds, concentration of reactants decrease. Therefore, as the time proceeds, concentration of reactants decrease like this. And coming to concentration of products, as the time increases, concentration of products increases. Therefore, the concentration of products increase with time like this. These two graphs are obtained experimentally. Now, law of mass action. In chemical kinetics chapter, we come across law of mass action. According to law of mass action, the rate of reaction is directly proportional to concentration of reactants. That is equal to some constant K, rate constant, into concentration of reactants. This is called law of mass action. That implies when the concentration of reactants is high in the container, then automatically rate of reaction will also be high. So they both are directly proportional. Now let us draw a graph for this law of mass action. In this graph, we have to take the rate of reaction on y-axis and time on x-axis. Rate of reaction y-axis, time is taken on x-axis. Here, rate of reaction is dependent upon concentration of reactants, and the reactants are decreasing with time. Therefore, the rate of reaction also decreases with time like this. So this is the graph for rate of reaction versus time. This is a curvature and rate of reaction decreases like this. So here we have written the law of mass action. So these are the basics which we need to learn before going into the chapter chemical equilibrium. Pause the video and write all the notes available here. Types of reactions. We know that there are two types of reactions: irreversible reactions, reversible reactions. The reactions which occur only in one direction are called irreversible. The reactions which occur in both forward and backward directions are called reversible reactions. Both forward and backward reactions will take place. If you write examples, we can understand them clearly. For example, consider the decomposition of KClO3, potassium chlorate. KClO3 on heating decomposes into potassium chloride and oxygen. Here for balancing, put 3 here, put 2 and 2 here. Here oxygen gas is evolved, and we are going to do this in a closed container. Even though when we do this in a closed container, the oxygen gas does not react with potassium chloride and form KClO3. That implies only forward reaction is possible here. Therefore, this is a irreversible reaction. Now coming here, consider the reaction decomposition of limestone. CaCO3 upon heating gives CaO plus CO2. Here CO2 is a gas and we are doing this in a closed container. Because we are doing it in a closed container, the carbon dioxide gas does not go out. Here what happens is, this carbon dioxide gas will again combine with CaO, calcium oxide, and forms CaCO3. That implies backward reaction has also taken place. CaCO3 is solid, CaO is solid, CO2 is gas. These two are reacting together to form CaCO3. Now what we have to realize here is, we cannot say which is reversible or which is irreversible on our own. Experiment will decide it. It depends on the type of product we take, the product we are having. Here the nature of the products are like that, in such a way that they are reacting and forming the reactants. Here the product's nature is like that, the reaction is going in the backward, not going in the backward direction. So it depends on the nature of the products which we have. We are not having any principle to find which is reversible or which is irreversible, but there is only one small statement which can be used here, which is a clue. It is like this: all precipitation reactions are irreversible. All precipitation reactions are irreversible. For example, consider the reaction NaCl plus AgNO3 to form NaCl plus AgNO3 gives AgCl plus NaNO3. Here AgCl is a precipitate, therefore this reaction cannot go back. So here we can use this statement, and let us write some more examples here. N2 plus 3H2 gives rise to 2NH3, reversible. H2 plus I2 gives rise to 2HI. PCl5 gives rise to PCl3 plus Cl2, reversible. N2O4 decomposes to give 2 moles of NO2, reversible. Right. Now third point, reversible reactions cannot go to completion. Why? Because they will go to completion. Why? Because there is only one direction. All the reactants can get converted into products. But here these reactions cannot go to completion. Why? Because the forward reaction is going on, at the same time backward reaction is going on, and the reactants are not totally consumed. Therefore they cannot go to completion. These are not completed. And coming to graph, here the graph is already written in the previous topic. As the time goes on, the rate of reaction decreases like this and finally becomes 0. The meaning of this becoming 0 is the reaction will stop here. The rate of reaction decreases with time and finally becomes 0. But coming here, for a reversible reaction there are two reactions, forward and backward. Here the rate of forward reaction will decrease like this. This is rate of forward reaction, and rate of backward reaction will increase like this, rate of backward, and here the two reactions will meet each other and here they go up to infinity like this. So this is the graph for reversible reactions. In our syllabus we are having only reversible, therefore we are going to study this graph clearly in the next topic. Please note down. Reversible reactions, equilibrium state. Consider a reversible reaction. R gives rise to P. In this reaction, two reactions are going on, forward reaction and backward reaction. For forward reaction, the reactants is going to be R. We are starting the reaction with R only. Therefore, initially the rate of forward reaction will be very high. Therefore, the rate of forward reaction will start here, and as the time goes on, the rate of forward reaction decreases like this. Because the reactants R are getting consumed, the rate of forward reaction RF will decrease like this. And at a time t is equal to 0, there are no products P. Therefore, the rate of backward reaction will be 0. But as the time goes on, that is 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, like that, as the time goes on, some amount of P is formed, and therefore the rate of backward reaction increases, because backward reaction is dependent upon P. Therefore, as the time goes on, the rate of backward reaction increases. So rate of forward is decreasing, rate of backward is increasing, RB. At time t is equal to 20 seconds, here the two reactions rate has become equal, and afterwards they will go on like this up to infinity. As you already know, here at a time t is equal to 20 seconds, the rate of forward has become equal to rate of backward. Therefore, here we are going to have a special state, and that state is called equilibrium state. Equilibrium state. So equilibrium state is the state in which the rate of forward reaction becomes equal to rate of backward reaction. Here in this graph, the equilibrium state is established at a time t is equal to 20 seconds, and it will go on like this up to infinity. Once the equilibrium state is established, the equilibrium reaction will go up to infinity in the same manner. Rate of forward is equal to rate of backward. Now let us write the characteristics of equilibrium state. At equilibrium, the first point is rate of forward reaction is equal to rate of backward reaction. Because the rate of forward and rate of backward are both equal, we can say that both forward reaction and backward reactions are going on. Both forward and backward reactions continue to take place at equilibrium. Because both forward and backward are continuing to take place, we can say that the reactants and products coexist in equilibrium. The reactants and products coexist in equilibrium. That is third point. Both reactants and products are present in the same container. And the fourth point is very important. Here we should do some calculation. At equilibrium, the number of moles of reactants, the number of moles of products, concentration of reactants, concentration of products, color, pressure of the container, pressure in the container, density, all these things will remain unchanged, in the container. Again I repeat, at equilibrium, number of moles of reactants, number of moles of products, concentration of reactants, concentration of products, color, pressure, density, all these factors are going to remain unchanged in the container. Now let us see why this is occurring. Here I have written some calculations. Pause the video and analyze all these calculations. The reactants number of moles are becoming 100, 50, 40, 40, 40, 40. The number of moles of products is becoming 0, 50, 60, 60, 60, 60, so on. So if you carefully observe here, up to equilibrium, we know that the equilibrium state is achieved at 20 seconds here. Up to equilibrium, the number of moles of reactants are decreasing, and afterwards they are remaining constant. Up to equilibrium, the number of moles of products are increasing, and afterwards they are remaining constant. So what we can say is, when the equilibrium is established, the number of moles of reactants cannot change. It is fixed. We can consider it as a lock. Equilibrium is considered as a lock. The number of moles of reactants are locked up at 40. So they will go on like that, 40, 40, 40 like that. And the number of moles of products are also fixed, 60, 60, 60 like that. Only thing that can happen is before equilibrium only. If anything or any change that can take place, it will take place only before the establishment of equilibrium. Once equilibrium is established, the number of moles of reactants does not change, the number of moles of products does not change. Therefore, here we have written it like this. Number of moles of reactants does not change, concentration of reactants, number of moles of products, concentration of products, color, pressure, density, all will remain unchanged. Analyze this point afterwards carefully by writing your notes. And last point, and the next point, the same equilibrium can be established from either side. That implies, if we consider a chamber having N2O4, when we heat it, it forms 2 moles of NO2, and an equilibrium state is established, and this state will have pale brown. Now let us start the experiment with 2 moles of NO2, and they form N2O4, and here also pale brown is obtained. That implies the shade of this pale brown and the shade of this pale brown here both are same, but the starting point of this equilibrium is N2O4 and here it is NO2. That implies the same equilibrium can be established from either side. And now the last point is Le Chatelier's principle. Le Chatelier's principle, that implies whenever a reaction at equilibrium is disturbed by changing the concentration of reactants or products or temperature or pressure, then the position of the equilibrium shifts in a direction in which the applied change is reduced or nullified. We are going to discuss this clearly in another topic, but now let us write here only the word Le Chatelier's principle. So all these are the characteristics of equilibrium. Pause the video and write the notes clearly. Application of law of mass action to reversible reaction. Application of law of mass action to reversible reaction. Consider the reversible reaction. A moles of A is reacting with B moles of B to give C moles of C and D moles of D. We will apply law of mass action for this reaction and we will do some small derivation, and here we will get the following formulae. Number 1, Kc is equal to concentration of C power C, concentration of D power D by A power A, B power B. This is a equilibrium constant in terms of concentration. Similarly, Kp is equal to partial pressure of C power C, partial pressure of D power D, partial pressure of A power A, partial pressure of B power B. Equilibrium constant in terms of partial pressures whenever the reactants products are gases. And we will get another formula also. Equilibrium constant Kc is equal to Kf by Kb. That implies rate constant of forward reaction by rate constant of backward reaction. So here we are getting 3 formulae. We are not going to do any derivations for this because this is revision. We should use these formulae for problems. Right. Now let us write some examples. N2 plus 3H2 gives rise to 2NH3. How do you express the equilibrium constant Kc for this one? Here the product is ammonia and the reactants are nitrogen and hydrogen. Concentration of NH3 power 2 divided by concentration of N2 power 1 into concentration of H2 power 3, because there is 3 here. And for Kp also, partial pressure of ammonia power 2, partial pressure of nitrogen power 1 into partial pressure of hydrogen power 3. So that is how Kp and Kc are written. Here all of these are gases. Now for next one, CaCO3 gives rise to CaO plus CO2. CaCO3 is solid, CaO is gas, CO2 is gas. Now let us write Kc for this. Kc is equal to CaO concentration into CO2 concentration divided by CaCO3 concentration. Here CaO is a solid, this is solid. CaO is a solid and CaCO3 is also solid. We learned that for solids there won't be concentrations. Therefore, to remove these terms we will put 1 and 1 here. So when 1 and 1 are written here, we will left with CO2 concentration power 1. That's the thing. And coming to Kp, Kp is equal to partial pressure of CO2 power 1, because only CO2 is the gas. Right. Now the last definition in this part, last topic in this part, relation between Kp and Kc. We are not going to do any derivations, we are writing the relation directly. Kp is equal to Kc into RT whole power delta n. That is important relation between Kp and Kc. Here delta n is equal to, listen carefully, delta n is equal to number of moles of gaseous products minus number of moles of gaseous reactants. Number of moles of gaseous products minus number of moles of gaseous reactants. Only gaseous materials are to be considered. So that is Kp and Kc relation. Let us write one example. N2 plus 3H2 gives rise to 2NH3. Gas, gas, gas. What is the value of delta n? Number of moles of gaseous products is 2 Number of moles of gaseous reactants is 1 plus 3, that is 4. Therefore minus 4, that is equal to minus 2. Now substituting in this one, we will get Kp is equal to Kc into RT power minus 2. That implies Kp is equal to Kc divided by RT power 2, because there is a minus here. This is written in the denominator. That implies Kp value is obtained by dividing Kc with something. That implies Kp will always be less than Kc here. So the conclusion is Kp is less than Kc. Why? Because Kp value is obtained by dividing Kc with something. Therefore Kp is less than Kc. Kp is less than Kc. So these are these points which we have to learn. The remaining part of this chapter will be discussed in the next video. Thank you.